and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and in this video I'll be flipping the Papercraft Society box number 24. This one was designed by Calcott, and I have been eagerly awaiting this box, so it was a lot of fun to dive right in and start creating some cards. So this is a quick look at the cards that I make in this video. I'll leave timestamps in the description box, so if you want, you can hit the timeline and then just jump straight to the card that you are most interested in seeing me make, if you are interested in doing that. And this one in particular is a pop-up platform card, which was a labor of love, let me tell you, because it took probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours to create. So I will go ahead and dive in and start with my flat card. So I just used my little tape roll there to draw myself a little circle. You can use anything that you like, a cup, a plate, a saucer, a die, anything, and really any shape too. It doesn't necessarily have to be a circle. Maybe you want to make something in the shape of a heart, for example. And the idea behind it is to just give yourself a guide so that as you stamp, you can sort of conform or try to have your stamps sort of hug that outline and give the impression of forming that shape. So I've just taken all of the candy stamps and I'm going to use them to create this, I suppose it's a wreath of sorts. And what's really nice is that there are really different size candies, and so you can use the smaller ones like those little gumdrops to fill in smaller spaces, and then you can use the larger ones to really create more of a focal area, because sometimes it's nice to have things that have a little bit more open space, for example, or that some things are a little larger, so that not everything is so the same, and that just helps to draw your eye to certain areas. And there are a lot of different sentiments in the stamp set and different size sentiments too. So it's really nice that we have some larger ones that will fit a design like this, and then there are smaller ones that go really well with some of the dies that are in this kit as well. What is also kind of cool is that there are a lot of these little flourishes that I stamped right under my sentiment. So that's kind of cool. It's just a nice way to just sort of spruce up your design a little bit. So here's a close up. Now, I guess because some of my candies have sticks on them, this isn't so much circular as it is maybe hexagonal, I suppose. But like I said, you can use any shape you want. And I use that sort of gumball wrapped candy at the very bottom there to sort of suggest that's kind of like my bow, the bow on my wreath. So I'm not going to include all of the coloring, mostly because I did lose some of the footage, but also because some of the later cards that I make have a lot more mechanical aspects to them that I felt that I wanted to keep in this video. And so just for the sake of not having this be a super long video, I just did most of the coloring off screen. But here you can see sort of the final touch. I did use a white jelly roll pen to give some extra highlights, and because I did use alcohol markers, I had some bleed through to the back of that card front. So I just lined it with pattern paper and covered it right up. So the inside of the card looks really nice too, but no one will ever really know that I did that just to hide the alcohol marker bleed through from the front. So this is going to be my layered card, and I did already stamp this really cute mug with a dollop of cream, and I stuck a little candy inside too. So those are 3 separate stamps, but you don't even really have to do any fancy masking. All I did was I just put a little piece of scrap paper right where sort of that cup line is, because it's relatively straight, and that way my dollop of whipped cream doesn't stamp on the outside of the cup. And similarly, I just used some scrap paper to cover up just that little bit of line where the lollipop sticks into the whipped cream. I have these little seed beads from the dollar store, and some of them kind of look like sprinkles. So I thought that would be super cute to add some sprinkles to my whipped cream. I had this little gingerbread kiddo left over from my previous cards, and so I wanted to go ahead and use that up. And the pattern paper did come in the kit, and so I wanted to add some Nuvo drops. So I wasn't really sure which color I wanted to use, so I just made myself some drops in different colors, and I'm gonna let those dry and sort of trail run them. That way I don't have to commit to anything, because the pattern paper does have little polka dots on there, but and they are in sort of greens and pinks. So I'm just going to cover all of those up with Nuvo drops just to have that extra bit of dimension. And you'll see that in the final card. But I did add some icing by way of Nuvo drops to our little gingerbread kiddo there. So I'll set that aside to dry and then work on my shaker card. So one of the things that's really cool about this kit is that we get 2 gingerbread, I'll call them adults just because they're larger, and then we get 2 gingerbread kiddos. So it's really cute that you can make a whole gingerbread family, and you get 1 gingerbread per pair. You get one that's in a dress and one that is sort of your more standard gingerbread. So kind of cool that we get so many different options and sizes. So what I'm going to do is all I did was just stamp and with my white Hero Arts pigment ink. And since pigment ink takes a while to dry, that gave me some time to put some white embossing powder over it so that I get a nice, that sort of enameled sentiment look. And I am using a heart die from a Tonic Studios nested die set that I have. And what I'm going for is that the 2 gingerbread adults are going to be holding that heart sentiment. And this will ultimately be my interactive card. So I'm making actually a shaker. I considered putting sprinkles in as my shaker bit, but ultimately I went a different direction. I'm not sure I made the right call, honestly, but I still do like how it turned out. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to back my aperture with black cardstock instead of letting it see through straight to the white card base. And the reason for that is that if I don't line up my shaker window exactly perfectly, then you won't see the white of the card base, but rather you'll see that black cardstock, which just makes it then look like shadow as opposed to having something so glaringly white stand out. So that's just going to help later for when I actually go to position this shaker component over top my card base, and I think it just gives it a cleaner look. So when I make shaker windows, I do like to cut my own foam strips so that I can actually really just cut it to any width that I want, because I have a variety of different widths of double-sided adhesive tape. And I do like to make my little shaker wells so that they hug the aperture as much as possible. That way you don't have to use quite as much fill, and you get a fairly decent sort of preview of how full or how sparse your shaker fill is, because it is so tight to the aperture. And I also do like to close off my shaker component with a second piece of acetate. And I'm brushing on, I use baby powder, but you can use anti-static powder, because my shaker fill, what I decided to go with was this sort of faux snow that I have, which is just like, plastic bits, and it just loves static. So having that little bit of baby powder, or if you choose any kind of cornstarch or whatever type of anti-static you like to use. It just helps it to not cling so much to the acetate or the edges of the foam tape. So I did lose a little bit of footage of me positioning this. I did okay. You can actually see on the left side there that a little bit of that black is showing, and so I knew that would happen, so that's why I did want to line it with black. That way it just looks like it's shadow, and especially since even if I did line it up perfectly, if the card recipient is kind of holding it, shaking it around, tilting it, and whatnot, they'll see, whatever is outside of the gingerbread cookie, even though I used the actual cutout and put that right back onto the card base. So I think black was a good call there. And then all of the little icing bits I just glued right over top on the acetate window. And I was tapping the acetate because some of my shaker bits sort of got clumped together a little bit. And in fact, I think next time I use this shaker fill, I actually might put some baby powder in the shaker mix itself to help it not be so staticky. Because they started to cling together and they don't move quite as freely as I would like. And here I'm just using some of the Nuva drops that I made earlier just to dot all around this card. And so it's really cute how this turned out. I actually kind of like the gingerbread on the right because that one's not filled quite as much, and so there's a little bit more movement of the snow. But I don't know, maybe I might make this card again and use some seed beads or something. So we'll see. I'm still not sure that the faux snow was the right way to go on that one. Okay, so then we're getting down to my last two cards, which are both pop-up cards. And I either didn't hit record or lost some footage. I'm not exactly sure which, but I don't have the footage of me actually attaching this pop-up card to my card base. So if you want to see how to do that, I do have a separate video on how to construct this house and how to put it into your card base. So I'll link to that in the upper right hand corner, and that way you can check that out. So apologies that this isn't going to show you the entire process, but what's really fun about this die set is that you get so many dies for decorating your gingerbread house. Now, I would definitely recommend, at least for the first time, figuring out how and what order these will get attached. So you have 2 front pieces and 2 side pieces. And just remember for the front piece, which is also the same as your back piece, the side that has the ends that have the 2 glue tabs, those are your top and bottom glue tabs. And so that's key because you really want to make sure that your orientation is correct when you start putting all of this together, so you know which way is up. But what's cool is that for the doors, for the windows, you get 1 die that will cut out sort of the backing plate, which I cut from yellow to indicate sort of the lights that are on in the house. And then you get a second die that just cuts into that piece the window panes. And so by combining the 2, you can get the white windowsills, and you have that in a variety of different size and shape windows. So we've got circular windows, we have arched windows, we've got these square windows. It's really, really fantastic. And I love that you can construct this in a number of different ways. So I just die cut all these pieces, and I'm using here glitter accents to make my snow and just add that little bit of like realistic detail to these houses, putting a little snow on the windowsills, and I just think it's really, really cute, and it's a really neat effect. But in this card, I'm just layering right on top of the house panel itself. You could cut into the house as well, and I'll show that in my next card. So lots of different ways, and if you don't want to use the dies to decorate your house, you can use the stamps also, and then color your house after you've stamped on it. So there are tons of options here. For the roof of the house, we do get a die that cuts that scalloped edge, and we do get some glitter cardstock. I'm using a piece of scrap cardstock out of my stash, so didn't come in the kit, but the brown craft paper that I am using for my entire house base, that does come in the kit. And I thought this would be a fun opportunity to really use up something that I don't use that often on my cards anymore. But there are these gemstones, and I have sheets and sheets of them in all sorts of colors. And so I thought it would be really cute to add a little rainbow of gemstones sort of as gumdrops on the rooftop. This is going to end up being a very, very dimensional card. And but I don't really mind because during Christmas I send gifts along with cards. So I'll just create a nice little envelope box for this, and then since it's getting shipped with a present, then that extra dimension isn't going to be a problem at all. So once you have all your house together, it'll look like this. So you'll have a front piece, a side piece, another front piece, and another side piece. And I'm just continuing to add these little details like ornaments onto the Christmas tree, and you can kind of see that I've got some continuity going where the window at the back of the house, you can also see the Christmas tree. So those little details I think are going to be really appreciated by whomever gets this. So the kit does also come with this really cute candy cane embossing folder, and I just used that letterpress technique where you ink up one side of your embossing folder and then you run it through so that you get that inked impression. And I do like to keep the outside of my pop-up cards really, really simple, just to make sure that really all the fun is on the inside. And if they put this on display, then they won't feel bad that they're covering up a really pretty outside card as well. So that's the main reason. But also, if I'm being honest with myself, a lot of times there's a lot of effort that goes into building that pop-up mechanic, and really I don't have a lot of creative energy left over to be really creative for the front of my card. So simple is often the best way to go for me on cards like these that take a lot of time. And I don't mind that it takes a lot of time because it's so much fun to construct these little houses, and I love the end result as well. So here you'll see how this card turned out. So really simple. Outside of the card, I use some of my Love from Lizzie's pinstripe stickers just to create that little border. And then as you open it up, check that out. So you get this really cute gingerbread house, all that snowy detail. You can open the door and see the little Christmas tree. And we've got all the candy gemstone rooftop, and just a really sweet card. And I think that it's going to be so much fun for whoever gets this when they open it up. And then of course this is a card that is just begging to sit out on display. So love how that turned out. And again, I apologize that I didn't show how to actually put the house into the card, but definitely check out the other video where I show how to construct the house itself, and you'll see that in a little bit more detail there. So moving on to my second pop-up card, I'm gonna create a platform style card. So I'm starting off with a piece of paper that is 5 inches wide by 8 inches long. And I scored at 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and then I turned it around and scored at 1/2 inch and 1 inch. So you'll have those same score lines on both ends. And that's going to be the platform where we're going to build up our scene. Now, I didn't use the house template that comes in the kit, and because mainly I'm just working off of scraps, but I am trying to stay kind of close to the dimensions of the gingerbread house that does come in the kit. I just figured that I would probably have to modify it a little bit in order to create this style of card, so that's why I didn't bother with the kit at all. Or the template that came with the kit, I should say. So, the platform, the way that this works is that there's going to be those 2 half-inch sections that we scored lines for. The half-inch section that's closest to the ends, those are glue tabs that will glue down to your card base. The other half-inch, the next half-inch in from that is basically the height of the platform. So you can make that height whatever you want. I just go with 1/2 inch because it's just easy to kind of remember. And the other thing with that extra 1/2 inch is that it also gives you an opportunity to sort of glue something in front of that as well if you want to put your sentiment there. And you'll see that a little bit later on. So what I'm doing here is I measured about 1 inch away from the second score line. And I drew a line that's as wide as the front of my house, and I'm just going to cut straight through this little slit. So the basic mechanic of a platform style card is that you're going to create slits in your platform for everywhere that you want to have an element pop up and basically stand up on your platform. Now, I had to create myself some little stands here, pop-up stands, and it's just a little scrap piece of paper that's about 1 inch wide. And it just needs to be long enough to have I think I went with a 3/8 of an inch glue tab. Then it needs an extra 1 inch for the height of our platform, and then another 3/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, I think, to attach to the house front. So if I had it to do over again, I actually, since I didn't use the template to create this house front, I think if I had to do it over again, I would just build that platform stand into this piece here. So extend it by that 1/2 inch that it takes to kind of clear the height of the platform, and then another 3/8 of an inch as a little glue tab to adhere down to the card base. That way I don't actually have to create that little extra pop-up stand. It's no big difference either way, but I think it's going to be a cleaner look if it was all just one piece instead of these multiple pieces that I'm using here. So just something to keep in mind as an alternative. I'm gonna probably make another one of these cards, and so when I do, and if there's interest in seeing this in a lot more detail and much slower with measurements, let me know in the comments. And when I go to make a second one of these, well, I'm pretty sure I will. If I do, then I'll create a more detailed video tutorial if there's interest in that. But essentially what I'm doing here is just laying out my scene. This is the fun part. This is where I get to kind of figure out what all I want to use, what I want to be part of my scene, and where I want everybody to kind of stand. And so for every element that I want to put into my scene, I'm going to just put a little pencil mark so that I can actually cut a slit. And through that slit, I'm going to actually attach a acetate stand, pop-up stand, and then attach my die cuts to that. So here you kind of see how I plan to lay out the front of the house and then the backyard. I'm gonna add a third tree here, but I actually have to die cut that because I didn't die cut enough trees. The other thing that I do is that for every element that I add to my scene, I die cut it twice. And that way I can sandwich that acetate stand in between two die cuts and have a nice finished look on the front and the back. So I think that just gives you a cleaner, more professional finish once you're all done, because that way it doesn't matter if you're looking at it from the front or the back, it's all going to look nice and neat. So here to cut my slits, what I do is I just use my grid mat, I line up my card along the horizontal line, and I line up my ruler on the vertical. And I'm cutting a slit that's 3/8 of an inch. And this is real time. This isn't me slowing down the video. This is the speed that I work at, which is why it took so long to create this. But you just want to make one slit and then cut almost as closely as you can to that slit, just to make it a little bit wider. But you can see it's not that much wider. You can see a little bit of my black mat showing through, but not, it's not that wide. All it needs to be kind of wide enough is to accommodate the thickness of your acetate stand. And I am going to be using heavyweight acetate, but you'll see that in a moment. First, I like to attach my platform. So here again, that first 1/2 inch section that we scored on the platform, that's a glue tab. I'm only putting glue on that first 1/2 inch section for now. And so that's going to adhere straight down to the card front. And I do like to use a combination of double-sided dry adhesive right as close to the score line as possible, and then I'll use some liquid adhesive as well. The double-sided adhesive is nice because that gives you a nice instant stick and full coverage all the way to the edge, so that you get a nice seal there. And I do like to push this right up to the score line of the card base, but not crossing it. You can still see the score line of the card base. And speaking of the card base, this is a 5x7 card, and I did use a pre-made 5x7 card base from a Crafter's Companion kit. And one thing that I did, knowing or anticipating that this card is going to be very, very bulky, is I scored a couple of extra lines onto my card base. Just one line to the left of the original score line and one line to the right of the original score line. And it was probably only just score a line that's touching the original score line essentially, and then fold along those score lines, because that gives you just a little bit of extra roundedness, a little bit of extra curvature, so that it can actually wrap around all of the thickness that this card is eventually going to have. So here I've already attached the back of my house, and I'm attaching my acetate stand. So as I mentioned, I'm using heavyweight acetate from Hunky Dory, actually. It's a really nice heavyweight acetate that stands up super strong. It's not going to flap over, so anything you attach to this will stand up straight. And all I did was I just cut it from scraps, so I don't even know how long this was originally, probably 2 inches or so, and it's only 3/8 of an inch wide. At the bottom, I scored myself a little glue tab, and I put some red line tape. So the way I attach is I stick it through the slot from the bottom, and then when I go to attach it, you'll see me do it in real time in a moment here. When I go to attach it, what I do is I prop up my platform in its kind of most upright position. That way, when I go to attach the acetate pop-up stand, I know that it's going to be at the correct angle, that it'll be straight, up and down when this pop-up platform is at its kind of fullest point. So here I'm trying to get my pop-up stand so that it's nice and straight, and then I pull that little pop-up stand all the way to the top so that it's nice and straight, and then I try to go as straight down as possible. And again, this is me in real time doing this. I'm not slowing it down for effect. So you can kind of see that why this is a labor of love. So now that I have got all of my pop-up stands in, what I'm going to do is, again, put glue only on that first half-inch section on the opposite end of the platform. That is going to be the glue tab that sticks down to our card base. So again, I've got double-sided adhesive tape right to the score line that gets me a nice solid stick there, and I don't have any lifting at that edge. And then I'll just squiggle on some liquid adhesive because that's going to be nice and strong and permanent. And on any card that has a lot of moving pieces, having that liquid adhesive is really nice. So here comes the fun part. So now it's all about decorating and deciding what elements you want to put where. And again, I just cut down those acetate stands to the height that I need. And I do definitely recommend exercising the pop-up mechanic as often as you can. So just keep opening and closing it just to make sure that everything folds down completely and pops up straight as you expect it. And I did attach one of my pop-up stands on the front yard here that I'm working on right now. It went in a little bit at an angle, and that meant that it kind of struggled to kind of pop upright when I opened the card. And so if you do identify something like that, don't worry, you can just cut off the stand and then make another one. So no biggie. So here we're looking at the center of the card. This is in between the back of the house and the front of the house where the two platforms are going to meet up. This is the score line of the card base. And I did put a little acetate stand right in the center there because I'm going to put a Christmas tree inside the house, which I think is going to be super darling and cute, except for the fact that I lined my houses with acetate. And vellum. And vellum is a lot more opaque than I thought it would be because you can't see the Christmas tree through the vellum at all. So what I might do is I actually might pull off, if I can manage it, or cut out the vellum that's behind the front door. And then that way, when you open the front door, you can actually see the little Christmas tree that's inside the house. But I just thought that it was a really cute idea to actually put something on the inside of the house as that extra little bit of detail. And I didn't mention it, but the way that I constructed this house was to actually die cut through the house piece with the windows and the doors, and then I just lined the inside with vellum, and then I glued the window pane piece on top of the vellum. So it's a little bit different than how I constructed my previous pop-up card, but it is just equally effective and as easy to do. So lots of different ways that you can go about decorating. So there I didn't actually talk about it. Oh, here's my little Christmas tree that I just used some Nuvo drops to draw on some garland and dot on some ornaments. Super cute. And as with everything else, I made 2 of these trees so that it can be viewed from the front and the back. And of course, through the vellum, you can't see it at all. But hopefully that's one of the reasons why I'm thinking about making another one of these cards, because I definitely feel like there's room for some improvement. So here I was just fixing one of the pop-up stands that went in crooked. I just snipped it off at the bottom and then put on another acetate stand, and that fixed things, and now everything is kind of bouncing up right as it should. So I'm gonna put my all my little die cuts on, and then the next thing will be to put the sides of the house on. So here you can see this is a little bit different from the template of the original pop-up house that comes in the kit, because the side of my house actually has 2 glue tabs to adhere to the front and back piece. And I just chose to construct it that way because I thought it would be easier and simpler. And it did work out pretty well. So once you have it attached to one side of your house, just close down your card and it will meet up with the other half of the back half of the house. One thing that I didn't pay super close attention to, and I think I just got lucky here, is that when you go to actually put your front and back houses onto their platforms, definitely make sure that they do line up. I think I was just eyeballing, the center point, but and it ultimately at the end of the day worked out. It was a little bit off, but not by a ton. So again, here's a really super simple card front. I just embossed the panel and used one of the craft paper sentiments that I just die cut circle. And then when you open it, check out this beautiful scene. You get this house that has this beautiful 360 degrees scene. At the front here, I've got just a little snowbank with have the sweetest Christmas sentiment that I stamped and embossed. And then you get all, this whole gingerbread family, beautiful house with all the glitter paper. And then you can turn it all the way around to the back of the house and also find this little kiddo just hanging out, hiding behind the tree. So really, really fun platform style card. It is not a fast project, so if you do want to make something like this, be prepared to spend, a few hours. I think I had probably 2.5, 3 hours of video footage, and that doesn't even include all of the prep that I did before I started recording. So it's definitely something that is a little bit time consuming, but totally worth it, because look at that wow factor, and it's definitely a card that will be remembered, will be put on display. So here is a final recap of all of the cards that I made in this video. Here's my flat card that is actually 100% flat because I stamped directly onto my card base, and I have 0 embellishments on that. And this is my layered card with the final Nuvo drops that I put on there, and I did add some diamond glaze to the lollipop to just give it that extra bit of shine. This is my interactive card, a fun little shaker with our gingerbread man and woman holding up a heart, and I just love how that turned out, but I might remake that card too and see how it looks with different shaker bits. This is my first pop-up card using the embossing folder on the outside, and then the house template as it's meant to be used as a pop-up on the inside. Love how we get so many different dies, and I didn't even use all of the dies that come in the kit that you can use to actually decorate your house with. So I kept it relatively simple, to if you can believe it. So there's a lot that comes in this kit, and you can use a combination of stamps and dies as well if you want. This is my second and probably my favorite card out of all of the ones that I made in this series, but It is my pop-up stand. I love how full the scene is, and I love the little signpost that says Merry Christmas. That vellum behind that door I might cut out so that you can actually see the decorated Christmas tree on the inside. But really, really fun card to make, and I think it's going to really be something memorable for whoever gets it. So I think they're going to really enjoy it. So those are the cards that I made using the Papercraft Society box 24. I believe it's still available for sale, so if you're interested in getting the kit, then check out the description box below. And if you like this video, please do consider liking, commenting, and sharing. And if you want to catch new videos as I publish them, hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and until my next video, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye!